Hello, my name is Emily Grandstaff-Rice, and I'm a candidate for the AIA 2023 President-elect. This past week, the AIA hosted the second of 3 candidate webinars for all the candidates for the National Board of Directors. The regions that were invited to be part of this were AIA California, AIA Mid-Atlantic, New Jersey, North Central States, Ohio Valley, and the South Atlantic. I have posted the first candidate webinar on my various media platforms, and now you'll get to see the second one. None of the candidates knew the questions in advance. This was off the cuff, and I have provided some resources to better explain my answers as we go along. So here we go.
We have Emily Grandstaff-Rice, candidate for first vice president and 2023 president-elect. Welcome.
Thank you.
Discuss in more detail how you will lead in regard to the issues recently driving the AIA, such as equitable design, diversity, and climate change. How will you create resources for these issues that can be implemented at the chapter level?
Well, I'll start with one that has been a passion project of mine, and the Equity and Future Architecture Committee that I chaired for 4 years, the Guides for Equitable Practice. And that was something we partnered with the University of Minnesota and the University of Washington to create actionable, research-based, architecture-specific resources for firms, for chapters, for individuals to explore the issues of equity, diversity, belonging, and justice. There are 11 guides, AIA.org/equity guides. I think, if you ask me what resources would I create, I have a track record of doing that, along with lots and lots of help with others. In terms of climate change, I think listening to our sustainability leadership group at the AIA, and that's multiple knowledge communities, especially COAT, health and wellness, design for justice, making sure that we start to normalize the conversation of what these industry leaders have already brought to the AIA and allow it to be used within the chapter network to meet the members where they are. I talked about that a little bit last week. We can't assume that the AIA is just going to create something and have chapters be able to use it directly. We have to make sure it's flexible and also look at the ways in which chapters are innovating with their own programming around equity and climate action. So it's a two-way street.
What can the AIA do to help members communicate the value of design to clients, communities, and the public at large?
In my opinion, it's tell our stories. There's value in the work that I do. There's value in the work that you do as well, Bill. And ways in which we can communicate that is to talk about what were the critical decisions that we made? What were the issues? How did we have to interact with the community? What were some of the challenges? And what were some of the ways that we can innovate? I also believe that in telling stories and communicating what we do, in a certain sense, making sure that it's less mysterious, is also ensure that we're telling diverse stories so that it's not just, this gets at the stereotypical view of an architect. It's not just one type of architect practicing in one ways. I love what Ricardo said last week, which was adjacent practice. How can we really show the diaspora and the range of what architects do? And in that, the value will come.
As the profession responds to the challenges of a changing climate, how do you see the issues of resiliency and climate action aligning to support members' efforts to design a more resilient built environment?
So at the core of resiliency is ensuring that what we build weathers both the climate that we have today and the climate for tomorrow. And so I think with resiliency, in a certain sense, it's using the data we have and using the technical knowledge that we have to ensure that our buildings will last. So how does that help members? Well, it helps you become a better architect. So the key is to make sure that architects in all ranges of practice have the data that they need and the best practices. So I think a key resource to that would be building up our best practice library or knowledge base, something that I want to think even 20 years ago, I remember sort of the publications of the best practices, ensuring that that happens going forward. But I do want to talk about two other aspects that I know are near and dear to Coates' initiatives, which is making sure that we also focus on infrastructure. We can work on our individual buildings, but in many cases, in order to realize the full effect of climate action, we need to have emphasis on also improving infrastructure. There's a school that I'm building in Harvard, Mass right now, where they couldn't put solar panels on the roof because the local electrical grid wouldn't be able to handle it. Like, that's ridiculous. So we also need to understand that our projects expand sometimes into conversations about the infrastructure to realize that resiliency and climate action that we can, and also decarbonization. We're also looking at a little slice when we talk about just a building. Where are the materials that we are sourcing? What are the responsibility aspects that we have to that? And also when we demolish a building, thinking about ways in which we can also ensure that we're conscious of the decarbonization.
All right, here comes the softball. What more can the AIA do to encourage K-12 students to become an architect?
Thank you. I think, and I talked about this last week, part of it is just seeing an architect, and I was joking because I was in a school when we had that call last week. I would love, this is a passion project of mine that we'll get to one day. A couple of years ago when my son was, well, probably more than a couple of years ago, when my son was a first grader, I went to his class for story time. And I'm looking at the books on the shelf, and there were buckets based on professions. And I kept looking for the architect ones, right? And I think, something as simple as being able to have access to books and stories about what architects can be at that age. No, we're not training them to be little architects. That's not the point. It's that we want to encourage kids to understand what architects do, right? We've talked a little bit about the value on par with doctors and lawyers. Kids really know what doctors and lawyers do, but can they always say what an architect does? And even if they don't become architects, they're going to become good clients. They're going to become good partners. And I think sometimes we oversee that when we're so focused on having kids become future architects. Understanding the built environment just makes them better citizens.
Great. We have about 20 seconds. You have anything else you want to share in 20 seconds or so?
Oh, 20 seconds. I'll do this really quickly, and I'd love to expand on this. A lot of times people ask me what my theme is. And for me, that's complicated. I think the role of a president in some way has to be building upon the initiatives in which the AIA is already doing, like urgent climate action for human and ecological health and advancing racial, ethnic, and gender justice, and building upon that. If anything, my theme is to continue the good work that we're doing and to build upon it with my own perspective and my own lens.
Great. Thanks so much, Emily.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Thank you, candidates, and all the staff that has to work really, really hard to make me look good. I appreciate you all. Y'all have a great day. Take care.
Well, thank you for watching. If you want to learn more about the candidates, go to the AIA 2021 annual meeting page where you can hear from videos for all of the candidates and some of their statements. It would be an honor and a privilege to serve as the AIA president. So I really thank you for watching, and I hope to ask for your support. Take care.